with just 4 days until camp's kicking off, so we've asked our analysts to pose some training camp questions. Neek, we begin with you. What question do you want answered?
Is Aaron Donald coming back? I'm excited about what the Rams can be right now. And Aaron Donald, apparently, I don't know what he out there doing with all that equipment working out if he's not coming back. Obviously, it hasn't been made official. He hasn't made any decisions yet. But he's staying in shape for something. And that D-line gets scarier and scarier.
Video courtesy of TMZ Sports from apparently across the state. Do we have to spy on Aaron Donald at this point in time? Tim Hasselbeck, you're our resident quarterback. What's on your mind?
What happens in Minnesota? Who wins that quarterback job? Obviously, it's a competitive division when you look at the NFC North. Look, J.J. McCarthy was a really high pick. They had high expectations for him in Minnesota. It hasn't really worked out, so they bring in Kyler Murray, seemingly intentionally to compete for the job. Feels like he has the inside track to it. Does he end up as a starting quarterback in Minnesota?
This offense has the chance to take it to another level if Murray gets the opportunity. Jeremy Fowler, outside of the Dougie, what question do you want answered?
Will Patrick Mahomes start week one? That is the question in the NFL. This premier Super Bowl winning quarterback has made rapid progress coming back from his ACL tear, but he's got to get cleared for contact, get in some preseason action, put himself in a position for week one, which is not a slam dunk. However, Joe, the Chiefs are leaning into the possibility.
All right, meanwhile, speaking of Mahomes, check this out. ESPN surveyed league executives, coaches, and scouts to help rank the top 10 quarterbacks. Jeremy Fowler compiled the article, so he wasn't just Dougieing this weekend. And for the first time since July of 2022, Mahomes is no longer number one on the list. Josh Allen has surpassed him. Mahomes is second, followed by MVP Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow fourth, Lamar Jackson drops to fifth, and rounding out the top 10, Prescott, Herbert, May, Jared Goff, and Caleb Williams. So let's go ahead, double click on that article, and ask the following question. Why did Josh Allen beat out Patrick Mahomes as quarterback one?
Josh Allen beat out Patrick Mahomes in a very tight race because he is a singular force like no other when he's on his A game running and passing. He's got the 200-plus passing touchdowns, 50-plus rushing touchdowns. He's cut down on his turnovers the last few years, which has been the bugaboo on him. He brings out the best in his teammates. Talking to a lot of coaches around the league, like, look, when you're game planning for the Bills, their receiving core is not very good. Their overall lineup isn't even that good. But Josh Allen is so good that he makes up for some of those issues. You combine that with the fact that Patrick Mahomes, for his standards, has had a few down years where the Chiefs haven't been as good. Josh Allen elevates to the top. Even though Mahomes got more first-place votes, Allen got more consistent top three votes.
How long did it take to go through the math on all this to figure it out?
It's all in here. Takes months, I would say. So, yeah, we've been putting in the work for this very show, my man.
Well, I'm happy to be a part of it. Tim, Allen over Mahomes, why is that justifiable?
I think it's justifiable for a lot of the reasons that Jeremy, mentioned. Look, Mahomes, the last 2 years has really not been the same, and the Chiefs' offense really hasn't been the same. So I think that there's probably been a little bit of a step back in terms of recent performance by Mahomes. And then I think for Josh Allen, what he has done in terms of how difficult he is to defend because the passing is so good, the running is so good, and also unique. He's such a big, powerful runner. But there was a period of time where people looked at Cam Newton and were like, look, that's the best goal line runner in the game. I think there have been elements now with Josh Allen where you almost view him a similar way as that, as a red zone threat as a runner. But then, in a designed runner, but then also the ability to scramble in terms of size-speed combination, which really is probably manifested in the rushing touchdowns as well. The ability to make people around him significantly better, which I believe is the best thing you can say about a quarterback. He's no doubt done that probably at a level better than anybody else in the league. And so I think when you look at all of that, Josh Allen is probably the best quarterback in the game right now.
The point on the legs is outstanding. Anyone who bets the Allen anytime TD bet every single time he plays knows exactly what you're talking about. Neek, why is it impossible to disagree with how Allen and Mahomes are stacked 1 and 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mahomes obviously has built up a lot of goodwill, but you can't argue with the last couple of seasons, in particular this season. The thing that kind of separated Mahomes, that made it so that even if his stats were a little worse, you might say he's better, is the way that his team performed in one-score games. And last year, they struggled in those. In previous seasons, you could always count on Mahomes to have some late-game magic to make sure that they won those games. He wasn't as good at that. He wasn't as good at third and long, the things that he did well. And then we saw at the top of this segment, he's limping. He's coming off an injury. So I think it would be easier to argue that he should be lower on the list than putting him any higher on the list, honestly.
Jeremy, you spent a lot of time living with this list, talking to executives, talking to scouts, talking to coaches, putting the whole thing together. When it comes to the comparison of Allen versus Mahomes, does that rivalry invoke any other comparisons we've had?
Joe, I love this. It has the makings, or at least the shades, of Brady versus Manning. Because let me break this down for you. Patrick Mahomes had 3 early Super Bowls, just like Tom Brady, so he'll assume the Brady role here. Peyton Manning broke through for his first Super Bowl win in year 9. Josh Allen going into year 9. So he would play the Peyton Manning role. If we have that kind of back and forth, where you have 2 top QBs trading blows for supremacy, we could have that going on for the next half decade here in the NFL.
Hasselbeck, slide back in here. Do you agree Mahomes and Allen, is that this generation's Manning and Brady?
Yeah, it certainly feels like it has the pretty strong, framework to have that happen. Look, both teams very good, have been very competitive. They're in the same conference. It feels like we've had, more matchups already between the two of them than you typically would have with teams that are in different divisions in the same conference and in big moments. We've had some excitement with them, as well in terms of the how dramatic it was, in late game finishes, things like that. So, yeah, I hope we get that, and I hope we get it for as long as we got Brady Manning, because it was pretty fun to watch.
And that's before we even consider the rivalries with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and now the emerging Drake May for the New England Patriots. Gentlemen, excellent stuff.
We have a couple dual threats as well. Senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler and football analyst Tim Hasselbeck are with us this morning. And Jeremy, it's your list that you compiled, so we're going to start with you. Why did Josh Allen leapfrog Patrick Mahomes into the top spot?
Yeah, Randy, people around the league just consider Josh Allen a force of nature, that he's the guy who can wreck a game better than anybody with that dual threat that you mentioned, and he's cleaned up the turnovers. He used to gift wrap footballs for defenders for years, 43 interceptions over the 3 years from 2021 to 2023. Well, the last 2 years, he's curbed that in a big way and limited those issues. And so you combine that with the fact that Patrick Mahomes has had, for his standards, subpar seasons in 2024 and 2025. It gave Allen the edge. He got the most top 3 votes, so he had the best results. And this is pretty much a long time coming. And now, Randy, we kind of have a situation where it's like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady back in the day jockeying for position, where Patrick Mahomes, similar to Brady, had the early Super Bowls, but the other guy is coming.
Yeah, let's hope we get that Brady Manning, scenario again. Look, Jeremy, I would see it the way that a lot of the people you talked to saw it, in terms of Allen probably being the hardest quarterback to defend in the game right now. Just in terms of what he's been able to do as a passer. You mentioned cleaning up turnovers. He's been really good pre-snap, which has gotten them into good looks. I think he's made the people around him significantly better, which is probably the best thing you could say about a quarterback. And then the running, not only is it remarkable, it's also a little bit unique just because of his size, kind of power, speed. He's turned into this red zone threat as a runner. So there've been so many elements of his game that I think are, just so difficult to defend. It makes him so unique. And you're exactly right about Mahomes. There's been a bit of a, step back, if you will, the last few years in terms of Kansas City's offense, his play, his ability to protect the football. So I do think right now Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the game.
Okay, notably not in the top 10 is a Super Bowl champion in Jalen Hurts. Jeremy, how is Hurts viewed by those you talk to?
Yeah, Randy, Jalen Hurts just wasn't really a factor in the voting. So Baker Mayfield was 15th. After those top 15, there was a pretty sizable drop-off. And so Hurts is in that other group, which is conflicting for a lot of people around the league, because there's great respect for his ability, for his intangibles, for his toughness, for his ability to throw a really good deep ball, for his ability to win big in big games, especially on a Super Bowl stage. So there's conflict there, but he's had trouble throwing over the middle of the field. And when people around the league view quarterbacks, they view them through the prism of fear. Who scares you the most when you have to game plan against them? Who's number one on the scouting report? And for the Eagles, it's typically Saquon Barkley, the running game. It was A.J. Brown. It wasn't always Jalen Hurts.
Tim, Jalen Hurts has 54 wins the last 4 years, including the playoffs. That's tied for the most in the league in that span. Do you have Hurts as a top 10 quarterback?
I don't. I wouldn't have him as a top 10 quarterback. And, it's hard. I mean, you mentioned the wins. It's remarkable. Look, Sam Darnold's not on the list. Coming off a Super Bowl, he's got 28 wins, in the last 2 years. So, look, I think if you just look at wins as a quarterback stat, obviously completely siphoning off what the defense does. Jeremy makes a great point about Saquon Barkley. You go back 2 years ago, which was really Hurts' best year. It was Saquon Barkley who was remarkable and who everybody had to deal with. So, look, Hurts is obviously an excellent quarterback. He's played through plenty of adversity. But I do think when you look around the league and, you look at ability and traits and, somebody that could move from team to team and have a massive impact, I probably, like the people Jeremy talked to, would not view Hurts the same way I would view other quarterbacks.
Listen to Tim Hasselbeck on this, because if Josh Allen is a game wrecker, Tim in his playing day wrecked a few games in his own right. Jeremy's full article is up now.
And Randy, if I made a list of SportsCenter anchors, a list,
yeah,
you would be on it somewhere.
Somewhere. Not top 10, obviously.
Number one.
Catch Jeremy and Tim top of the hour on Get Up, where this comedy show will continue. Thank you, guys.